Hello, everyone. We are back after a long hiatus with Love Soleil, and I'm super excited and have been inspired to come back, frankly, by the guest that I have with me today. This is Andy Wang. Andy is a coach, a host of a podcast called Guns, Roses, and Spirituality, and now a new author of the book that I have right here,
What?
Clearing Resistance. Super amazing book. Highly recommend it. We're gonna definitely dive into this today. But Andy, thank you sincerely for being here. It's very much an honor.
Yeah. I'm happy you're back on YouTube and everything. And yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm so curious because, the thing about, I think each of us who have sort of awakened to our purpose, if you will, and in sort of this new path, blazing a new path in journey of humanity, and you are certainly doing that. I'm so curious, like, what would you say are the sort of key things that brought you to where you are on your path and with such crystal clarity on what you're here to do?
Yeah, so I think I realized recently I sort of represent the newer generation of spirituality, but I don't like saying that because someone would think, oh yeah, new age, it comes with a certain type of stigma to it. But for me, it's totally different, and I hope to change that a little bit. But basically, I've learned from all the traditional teachers like Eckhart Tolle, Abraham Hicks, and Neville Goddard, whoever. But I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I grew up just really struggling with my reality, struggling with my thoughts. I had no sense of spirituality that it exists or whatever. But I was desperate enough because I was struggling so much with overthinking, so much with my thoughts that I gave this spirituality stuff a try. And then when I turned 17, I started becoming deeply present. I started to just really practice that. And long story short, I rapidly started quieting my mind because I fully committed to present moment awareness. And I really started quieting my mind. And that really gave me so much bliss and peace. And it changed my external reality as well. Fast forward a few years, I go through college and then I get in a relationship and everything, and it was cool. And then it all broke apart. And then I hit like a really low point in my life. Um, and that's when I really started to like fully commit to like presence and all that stuff because I was committed to it. And then I went to college, started drinking and partying and stuff like that, and had a girlfriend, and then just kind of got distracted from it. And then after that, I started to recommit to presence, but then I started to get into the teachings of Abraham Hicks and I started to practice gratitude and raise my vibration. And that's when everything in my life took a whole nother level. And fast forward some more time, I started to do affirmation work and stuff like that. And it was cool, but something was really missing because I had a lot of topics in my life, like relationships and money, that even though I was doing affirmations and stuff, it still wasn't manifesting. And so that's when I got into the clearing resistance, clearing negative thoughts stuff that I teach in the book, which, through present moment awareness and also certain Abraham Hicks teachings, like the focus wheel, which is a technique that helps you shift your thought patterns effectively through those techniques, which helps clear the negative thoughts, and combining that with some affirmation work, like really is what helped me like just manifest free time, all this money, and like just divine love, and just literally every area of my life is super amazing now. And I could not have imagined this like just a few short years ago. And I'm just living my best life every day on all topics. And yeah.
That's amazing. And I love the reclamation from even from both like new age, because there's like the stigma around the new age, but even like what you'd consider spirituality, because on the one hand, it's almost like some people consider spirituality as still something sort of outside of yourself, or something that you kind of practice, if you will, which is true as you begin, but as time goes on, you become it, right? And I think that the new wave of awakened people is the people who have become what they wish to see in the world, right? There's the old quote, like, be the change you wish to see. And it's very much that. But the centerpiece of it, as you describe and you talk about so much in this book, is presence. It's presence. People don't even know who they are because they're not present. They don't know that their thoughts are ruling their reality and creating delusion and illusion because they're not present. And presence, I think, is very much the master key to a whole new world.
Yeah, so looking back, there is a reason why presence was like the first like
Right.
strong download I had. Like I was pushed to do presence and I thought that was for the rest of my life, like only presence and only focus on presence. But uh, eventually I branched out into adding affirmation and clearing resistance, right? But presence for sure is the foundation. And ever since I first committed to presence, that's when I just instantly realized I was more than this body. I was more than this personality. So has been a foundation for me, just being so conscious since I was, I guess, 17. And that's with me every single day. And you're just allowing and channeling so much more. So that has to be the foundation because you could do all this affirmation and even clearing work and stuff, whatever. But if you're not present and aligned and conscious, then yeah, like you're really gonna be all over the place mentally, still struggling with your thoughts and stuff like that. So presence is definitely the foundation for all of it.
I could not agree more. In fact, if anybody ever asks me for any advice and I only have a second to give them any advice, my advice is always to meditate as a way of cultivating presence because the truth is a new world, again, I'll say it again because it matters. A new world will only come from people who are present. And anything that you want in your life comes from presence. And I mean, so much of what you talk about in this book and what you do in your work and in your coaching is even helping people manifest, make more money. I mean, these are real world things that come though first from presence. Anything you want to create, your divine love that you've manifested, it's all come from your presence practice, right?
Yeah, so it's so interesting because everyone comes to me for like manifestation stuff, and it's so funny because they all end up practicing presence and releasing their negative thoughts first because like affirmation is not hard. Like you don't need to like hire a guru to like learn how to repeat just like, oh, I am rich, like, for like hours a day or like few minutes a day. Like, it's really like presence. Not saying presence has to be hard, but you know, um, that is really the key. Like, people don't associate presence and releasing negative thoughts with manifestation and external whatever, whatever. But it is the absolute key to all of that, and that's something like yeah, like I think we're both very passionate about talking about, but also like yeah, like just it's just all rooted like internally, and when we have that foundation of presence, then the manifestation work becomes really easy.
Yeah. And I agree that it does not have to be hard. However, it is true also that what I would consider the matrix is a system that is built to avoid you from yourself, right? Nothing in the matrix is talking about presence. Nothing in the matrix is talking about sitting with yourself or being with your emotions or understanding your inner workings and how you operate and how you think. Like those teachings they're not teaching that in school. If they were, we would be in a whole different world, baby, but we're not quite there yet. We're getting there. We are the revolutionaries and the leaders of this new way of existing, and we have to live it out first in our own path. But that's to me why it's so important, just presence, and to start to even look at, wow, I said this to somebody else the other day who's a pretty powerful person in the world. And I was like, a lot of people spend their entire day avoiding themselves. And he was like, dang, I do kind of do that. And it's because even what people define as success is often rooted in self-avoidance. Some of the greatest X, Y, and Z, artists, athletes, whatever of all time have become so good at what they've done because they wanted to avoid themselves. So they did this thing and they got really great at it and they got all the accolades and all the rewards for being great at something, but secretly it was in the name of avoiding themselves because they didn't want to have to be with the stir of the discomfort of like, yeah, I do have these emotions that don't always feel good, or I do have these thoughts that are not helpful, or, that bring up emotions. You talk about that a lot in your book. And So, in my work, I talk a lot about just facing yourself, and that's what, that's the thing about presence. While it's not hard, it's not always comfortable either, right? Because you have to, like, wow, I kind of do think this way. Wow, I'm really literally sabotaging myself throughout the day with these kinds of thoughts and these kinds of emotions and behaviors that I allow to exist in my reality, and even sabotaging others by with these thoughts and behaviors and emotions that I allow to exist in my reality. And it's an uncomfortable truth, right? To see how much of our own problems we create and amplify and perpetuate with how we're thinking and how we're existing. So facing yourself is not hard, but it's uncomfortable, right? And that's, I think, why so many people avoid it.
Yeah. So a few things. First of all, at some point I realized like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that if you talk about the Matrix or whatever, like they bring the creator outside of you, right? Like first, right? Like whether, you can talk about religion or whatever, people can believe whatever they want. Like I have no problem with that. But I guess my own experience, I had a realization one day where I was like, wow, like they really put the power of creation like outside of you. And that was like just such a big thing. I feel like that was taken away out of all of us a little bit. But also when I realized that about money and stuff, it's like, wow, we were taught to like work hard externally and just like to get grab outside of us um with money and everything. But when I realized like, oh, it's all internal and that abundance is tapped into vibrationally or whatever within you, um that's when like I have full time freedom and like just money is like not a problem in my life anymore. Like I live extremely abundantly and everything. And yeah, it's just constantly realizing that within. Um, and I still have points of lack of awareness with that to this day, but on a very more subtle fine tuning level. Meaning, when I was working on content the other day, I would get in the mindset of, oh man, I need to, yeah, like do all this external stuff, and then I wasn't realizing that, okay, I need to be more present when I do this work because it's really energetic. And like the content stuff was like sort of triggering me a little bit. It was frustrating. There was like a lot of errors and stuff. And then I realized, wait, let me be very present as I'm, editing this video and not getting triggered. And that's really the work I'm doing all day, being present. And so even when my work triggers me, I'm able to transmute it a little bit each day, and that's how I clear, and that's how more abundance comes in, and then I'm, doing better. Instead of just getting so lost in the external action of the content, and then same with manifesting divine love, where I realize like, wow, society or whatever like really makes you feel like you need to go out there and look for love. And I realized what we truly want is to tap into love frequency, tap into alignment, and tap into source on a very high level. And so I started to just fully just practice a ton of gratitude, really clear a lot within me, and prioritize just absolute union within myself. And I pretty shortly reached a point where I didn't even want a relationship. But funny enough, I reached that point, and then I manifested divine love. Like this relationship is clearly completely different than any other relationship I've ever had. And the amazing thing about divine love is there's no attachment, but there's also this thing where me and her, we literally push each other to go deeper within versus like to just look at each other for the source of love. We actually like somehow like just yeah inspire each other to just cultivate the love within more and more. And like whenever a problem or obstacle arises, we both immediately go within. Like we don't blame each other. We immediately kind of get quiet and work within and clear resistance and whatever. And immediately like amazing explosive results happen. Like just and so yeah, like every of these topics in this newer paradigm, like money or whatever, should be conscious and direct you within to your own source, basically.
I totally agree. And I mean, so much to say of what you've said, but one of the things you talk about in your book is how you actually look forward to triggers now. And, that because when you're triggered, it's something, internally showing you where you're about to kind of take off because this has been something that's probably blocked you in some capacity. And so, what a beautiful reframe, right? Because we live in this world where people's favorite phrase is "you made me feel this way," and what a lack of accountability to say that. And then you're on the internet and doing a crying video because the world made you feel a certain way. But it's like nobody can make you feel a way that you don't already feel in some way, especially if you're willing to put it on the internet, because in some way then you actually even identify with feeling that way, right? This is sort of the nature of victimhood. And so what all of this work does is it takes us out of victimhood. Victimhood is not even an option when you operate from this vibration and from this way of thinking and existing, because it's nobody else. Like, our life is now in your hands. You are the full, and that goes back to what you kind of started with, talking about whatever you consider God. I think that's why a lot of spiritual people shift from God to the universe, because it's less like this man on a throne in the sky, like judging people, and more of like a force that you wield that exists within and beyond you. When I think of God, I love the word God. I certainly don't think of it as man or woman or singular consciousness. I think of it as sort of the highest powers of the universe that are always actively helping us vibrate higher and inviting us into more power, ultimately more of our own power. But it's not something you look to and ask for something. We are literally, instead of asking, it's the shift to commanding. And I also hear spiritual people say, I am God. And while I understand the sentiment, I think my belief system around that right now is like still just that God, we're a drop in God's ocean, right? So the universe, if you will, is God. We are not like the universe in one small component, but we certainly wield all the powers of the universe and all the powers of any person that has ever existed, and probably all those powers already exist in parallel timelines, lifetimes, past and future, if you will, and that we can tap into any power that we choose to tap into and wield it and combine them. It's pinging me on the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, if you've watched that. But it's kind of silly, but it talks to what I'm speaking of here, which is we're so much more powerful than we think we are. And I think the system of the matrix, and even some of systems of religion and other systems that have existed, have put the power outside of us, and we need to be looking to something else to ask for power. That's not power. Power is not something that someone else gives you. Power is something that you already have, that you remember and you claim and you cultivate and then you use to command your reality. And again, if we lived in a world where everybody commanded their reality, holy cow, we would live in such a different world. It'd be way more fun, first of all. We'd be way more abundant, way more everything, like way more all of the like higher vibrational things, because the matrix, if you will, the systems of control that are in place now or have cultivated themselves over time, do put people as a victim to something else, and always a victim to something else. And money being the number one thing, which is why I love so much that you talk about money in your work. It's not this negative thing. We all want to have money. We all want to be wealthy. There's nothing wrong with that. But you do have to shift your relationship to money, from thinking work harder equals more money, because that's not true. And B, that we have, your relationship to money is really ultimately what determines how much money you have. And because money is the kind of carrot, if you will, that the systems use to keep people enslaved, sort of, or keep people small or out of their power, it's people have such a fear, scarcity mindset around money. And you talk about that so much in your book. And I know that's what you do so much in your work, is just putting people back in the power seat of their relationship to money, which is like the ultimate code, I think. And again, it's not even about money. It's what having money represents, which is time and space and freedom. And, it's like the currency of life ultimately.
So, how do you see us helping the collective or just even the audience? Like, how do we start making this shift into, the new earth, the new age? Like, What are we doing? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, I think we're doing it. That's the thing,
Hmm.
because, this is what the difference to me between someone who's awake and not quite awake yet is. Like, the awakened one is just radically accountable for their own world and their own life and their own reality. Like, that to me is just awake as that. And some people aren't ready for that. They say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? You can't. And anybody who's in our type of work knows that you can't wake people up. You can't go with a blowhorn on a mountain and say, listen, everybody, wake up. It'd be great. And if they just woke up and, ding, and it would be fantastic. But the truth is, it's a choice. It's a choice. Being asleep is a choice, and being awake is a choice. And sometimes being asleep is harder, frankly, because it's less fun to be dreary and out of your power and victim than it is to be fully in your power and the commander of your own reality. But it's still a choice. And so I think the only way to awaken people is to make that choice for yourself. And then, as you and I have both done, pivot your work to be like, those who are ready to make the choice, come on in. We're happy to help. Like, it's so fun. Because the other thing about awakening is it's vibrational, right? It's the vibration that you carry, where people are like, there's something different about that person. I want to, like, kind of figure out, like, how, Andy, to give a little backstory, Andy talked to me about how he went on the Abraham Hicks cruise and would often have kind of a circle of people around him, and he was sort of preaching, right? But it's because of your vibration, because people are like, there's something, I want to hear what he has to say. And I think that's the awakened vibration of people are like, it's medicinal, it's healing, it's like you awaken people just by being in your own vibration. Again, you don't even have to be saying anything. You can, as long as you're keeping that same energy at the grocery store and when you're getting your oil changed and in real life, any little conversation plants the seed, right? We're awakening people just by existing in this world. So I believe we've done the work. Doing the work is doing the work, and then you get to enjoy it, and then other people enjoy it vicariously through you, want to know more, and suddenly there's just this avalanche of people being like, I'm taking my reality back.
I love what you just said about, yeah, even at the grocery store, oil change. It could be hanging out with your best friend, your sister. It could be yeah, going to the gas station. It doesn't matter. Like, so for me, how I practically do that is be present before I do all those things, right? Like, if you just go to the grocery store and be present, it changes everything, every interaction. It could be a subtle change, right? Like, me doing this podcast without being present and me doing it while being present, it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different energy, but that applies on the tiniest level. And that's why I preach so hard. Like, bulletproof your energy, be present, like, be aligned with that presence before you go out. And yeah, like, I love how simple it is. Like, just be present, just choose to be present, and you will make that shift within you, and that light will, yeah, just reach out to the world.
Truly. And the other piece about it, what I have found is, like, even so, presence and then intentionality, right? So if my day tomorrow is that I'm going to hit a coffee shop for some work and then go to a yoga class, like, I've aligned my energy and my light with those two things, right? And so the attraction of that will bring in the people who will happen to be also at the, coffee shop, that need this little conversation with me or this little interaction or just to see my light for what they need, right? And so it's like, again, it goes back to even talking about not working harder. We don't need to work harder because we figured it out for ourselves. We just need to, like you're saying, exist fully and as absolutely present as possible, so that our existence itself can help other people and facilitate the awakening of humanity. I know I've talked to you before. To me, I actually got that, like, statement from my mom, because that was hers too, that my mission is to facilitate the awakening of humanity. Sometimes that means I'm a bad guy in someone's story. That's a part of it too, right? It doesn't look one way. I would love to be a little fairy with the magic wand tapping people awake, but unfortunately sometimes people need me to be a bad guy, and that's their awakening, right? Or what have you. It's a major also non-attachment in how that's going to look, but presence and intentionality and sending your light and holding your light and letting your light speak louder than anything you have to say, right? Because presence is the light that shines from your being. It's like spirit, and it's a big energy field, and people can feel, more when you're present. I don't know if this happens to you, but certainly for me, people, like, always want to tell me their life stories and such, and I can feel it. It's like there's a safety for them because I'm present enough to hear it, and I'm not, like, over here while they're talking. It just feels good to be seen and witnessed. A lot of people just need to be seen or loved, and love is the gateway to oneness, and oneness is the ultimate experience for all. And so, presence, love, and oneness, those three are just sort of like the dream team of like helping humanity remember who we actually are and what we actually have the power to do.
You just dramatically changed my perspective because even though I've always done the whole be present thing around others and all that stuff, and just really tended to my own energy, I didn't realize how much of an effect that makes on my neighbor, how much of an effect that makes at the lady at the grocery store who, opens up to me or whatever. Like I'm realizing, oh, this is not just selfish. Like this is actually just helping everyone. And I'm just realizing, wow, I am making a big impact, even if it's just everyday moments.
Andy, I mean, I can say that 1000% for you. And I know you and I have talked about this before, how much you've even shifted your lineage and your heritage and generationally. I mean, if all we do is work on ourselves and be present, like that's literally enough, because there's a lot of layers to that, right? And there's a lot of like, it's not, we don't exist as a singular thing and that's it. And there's nothing else we're connected to. We are connected to our ancestors, and we are connected to the world. And so energetically and vibrationally, our awakening awakens everything around us. And again, how that looks is each person's own journey. But you have done so much for even your family. I mean, you've like shifted your family's whole relationship to money and abundance and wealth by doing this work on yourself and visualizing it and creating that intentionally. But it's come through your journey 100%.
Yeah, and even with my family restaurants and stuff, it's like I used to serve there, and even when I was there, it's like I just bring that presence in, and the restaurant atmosphere at first, it was just like a hectic restaurant, and then all of a sudden, as I cultivate the presence within myself in this hectic environment, the vibe, the energy start to change, and all of a sudden, this restaurant energy, it just became like this amazing aligned energy, and every night is somehow so magical. Everyone's having a magical experience, and I think even when I left the restaurant, like that energy still carried on, and there's still these magical moments at like this local restaurant, and I think that's something I am even like passionate about. It's like, wow, like me and my family, we're building this thing, and they're not spiritual, but they've caught on to the energy somehow. And it's just like the restaurant and all of our business endeavors with my family has this soul to it. And it's changing the world on a level that, yeah, like I know it's I guess like you don't see like because this is just like not directly spiritual, but then it's the same with like a local cafe or whatever. Some places have such good energy, and even on that level, transformations are happening. But I also had a download, which is like when we talk about a spiritual empire and stuff. I guess before I met you and a lot of other people, I was thinking I have to build this spiritual empire, like my empire. But now I see this vision of no, it's one empire. It's just like our just web of all of us being connected uh with source, with this power, yeah, with this aligned energy, like all of us is web that's connecting all of us around the country, around the world. And it's this one powerful web of an empire that connects us all, and it's undeniable, and it's growing stronger, and it has no borders. And it probably even transcends, it for sure transcends even this planet. Like we don't have to go there today, but it's the whole entire multi-dimensional galaxies and whatever you can imagine beyond that. Like it's so much more to this web that we're really connecting to, and it's coming in.
I could not agree more. The term I love for kind of sort of what you're trying to describe is just the kingdom, because it sort of implies that there's divinity to it too, right? There's also, it's like we're co-creating, right? And it's so amazing because the shift in like what we're creating and what I see as the future of humanity is just that people feel better. I think that's the thing, is once you unlock this code, you feel so good that you don't even feel like you need to be doing. Like you don't even really want to be doing that much because you feel so good in your body and your vibe that like unless it like is your highest excitement, so to speak, which they say to follow your highest excitement, that's sort of your guiding point. Other than that, you can just be present, you know. And I think like even animals are such a great guru for like presence, right? Because they're like, they're not worried about like, you know, how fluffy their tail is, or like, you know, doing anything except for like meeting their basic needs. Dogs love to love, cats are gonna do their thing, you know. But they're such great teachers for presence because they're not like worried, they're not stressing about anything except, dogs especially love, they just want to love, and cats are like mostly just chill. You know, the back is to the TV, they're like staring at the walls or watching the bird or whatever, you know. They, and so if you think about it that way, and I do believe that's kind of like, as humanity reclaims our power, it's not like, again, it's not going to look like we're working harder. And I think this is, and going back to what you and I have talked about a lot, is the balancing of the masculine and feminine on the planet. Again, it's not like, I'm not going to sit here and say woman power. It's not even about woman and man. It's about the energetics of masculine and feminine. The masculine energetic is to work hard, and, you know, it's more of like the kind of doing and the analytical and the logical linear. The feminine is more of the quantum, the flowy, and like the receiving, and you know, the complement to that, right? And on the planet so far, what has led the way has been the masculine. And what's balancing out, and what actually is the key to this work, and what you talk about a lot in your book, is being more in the feminine energy, being more in the flowy and the quantum, the creation, the creatrix, and, you know, like co-creating with the forces of the universe to create the reality you want, not by working harder, but by clearing out the things that are simply blocking you from that reality that's already trying to come in. You know, like you're always trying to vibrate higher. Like the nature of energy is it's always trying to vibrate higher, and vibrating higher is really the ultimate success, because you feel good, you bring the world with you, you know, you're happier, it's way more fun. Like life gets better every day. You talk about this all the time in your content. Like life like still gets better every day. You wake up just feeling so good and so excited, and like, what does today bring? And it might bring like a chill day on the couch, and that's still so fun. Like, you know, it's just so, it's such a more like satisfying on every level, spiritually, emotionally, energetically, and physically, way of living, that it's like, you know, there's a experience of feeling that sense of completion. You know, I say like, I feel so good about my life and even what I've brought so far, and all the things that, like, if and when my time is done, I'm like, it's all good, baby, because I like, you know, I feel that it's like that, it's oneness, right? You feel like you've kind of found this layer of oneness, that would be what the kingdom is all about, of just like oneness. Now, of course, you're still going to be you, I'm still going to be me, and so there's two people here, and there is the 3D duality and separation. So we don't want to step over that, right? We don't want to bypass that, because we are still humans having human experience, and each one of us individually for a reason. But it's also remembering that we can lean into oneness, we can lean on oneness, we can lean on love, and we can lean on each other. And I think that's a really important part of seeing it from that perspective, and this idea of like having a kingdom.
I just got the download that when you are just taking the moment to be present, let's say it's Sunday and you know you're drinking a beer, eating nachos, enjoying football on TV, and if you just like lean into it, like be more present with it, like just fully like embrace the moment, like enjoy your life, and embrace the mundane, like just embrace whatever it is you're enjoying, like you're hanging out with your mom or something, like just really, yeah, just embrace the moment fully, be present and honor it. That connects you to the kingdom. Like that really lights you up, connects you to that grid. And so, yeah, like take advantage of this everyday moments, and you're connected. Like you're connected to the kingdom, to the empire, to wherever. And I mean, I guess you're always connected, but you really light up, and the grid, the new earth really, really, really lights up in just those everyday moments.
Totally agree. I totally agree. I think that's honestly like a beautiful place to close out, because it's the key. You know, it's so simple, and it seems so simple, and yet there's the complexity of like getting to the place where you can just enjoy where you are, and you don't feel like you have to avoid yourself. But I think that like just leaving it right there as like, it's all you have to do is just be present. And again, I'm going to bring your book back in, because you really break it down here of like how to do that. And the, you know, you talk about the focus wheel, and you break down the focus wheel and how to do all the things that you're discussing here. So great book. You guys definitely have to get it. But I think that's the master code. You know, we've talked about that, and it's woven into this conversation so much, is just presence and practicing presence. And if you and I can leave anybody who's watching this just that one nugget of just practice presence, because I promise you that's where all the magic comes from.
For a closing, I guess, message for me, I just want to say, yeah, like, please, like, if you feel called to practice that, it's so simple. Just make the choice to just, yeah, be more present. We're literally asking you to enjoy your life more.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like I'm sorry if that's too much to ask for some people, but like enjoy your life more.
Yeah.
And just keep in mind that like there's no end to how good it gets. Like kind of like the vision that we laid out, it's just the beginning because it's like I can't even describe the depths of love and joy that's possible, and it's so infinite. And there's more and more momentum, like of happiness and love. Like there's just it's crazy how good it can get, and it will get. And so, whatever your highest vision of what this can be is, it's just like 0.0001% of how good it can be.
Yeah. 100%. Andy, thank you so much. It's always so good to talk to you. I appreciate you joining me today. I'm excited for this to get out into the world, and keep doing what you're doing, because sincerely, you are like absolutely at the leading edge of the change makers of this thing. And, you know, I think as long as we all stay committed, like we're changing the world, baby. So cheers to that. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Peace.